WNBA TV ratings are down more than 50% since Caitlin Clark's injury. And it was also reported that the Indiana Fever television viewership is also down over 53%. Now, I know a lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down.
The 2024 and 2025 WNBA seasons have been a whirlwind of excitement, controversy, and unprecedented attention, largely driven by the arrival of Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever's rookie sensation and the NCAA's all-time leading scorer.
Just maybe the WNBA didn't want to give press credentials to a critical media outlet like Outkick. Maybe they didn't want Outkick asking why the league refused to investigate Bob Greiner. You see, the WNBA only wants turd polishers covering their league. They want sympathizers. They want media who will pretend their players are victims of an oppressive system. They also want media who are willing to lie about the product.
Clark's entry into the league brought a tidal wave of new fans, record-breaking viewership, and a spotlight on the WNBA like never before.
One player gets injured and more than half the TV audience for the entire league disappears. Has any other athlete ever had that kind of impact on a sport? Golf without Tiger definitely dropped precipitously on occasion.
But just when you thought the focus would be on her dazzling performances, something far more troubling has emerged: a pattern of questionable refereeing that seems to target Clark disproportionately, raising serious questions about the league's priorities.
News is alarming for the league, and it's alarming for the league because this is such a crucial year for the WNBA. At the end of this season, the WNBA will go into CBA negotiations. If negotiations go well, then every single player in the WNBA has a much better chance of making so much more in their next contract. And if you guys were watching my videos during the off season, I was so much more optimistic going into this year because we had so much drama and the media, I felt like, mishandled so many things with the WNBA last season, and specifically with Caitlin Clark and her fan base. And that's one thing when you start thinking about how many people stopped watching when Caitlin Clark got injured. A lot of people stopped watching because they are boycotting.
And here's where it gets even crazier. The officiating issues, particularly surrounding players like DeJounte Carrington, suggest a deeper ideological bent that prioritizes politics over player welfare. Let's dive into the chaos, unpack the double standards, compare this to the NBA's golden eras, and speculate on what could happen if Clark takes her talents elsewhere, perhaps to Ice Cube's Big Three league or even overseas.
Focusing on being a really good teammate. I think that can kind of distract you from not actually playing, is when you just focus on your teammates and, how can I serve them and help them.
Caitlin telling us she's been a connector between her coaches and teammates. They've gone 1-2 without her, and they'll be without her again this weekend.
I think just giving themselves grace. I think everybody's kind of just stepped up and, adjusted to it. And I'm just really proud of them for staying resilient and really just battling, and happy we beat the Mystics, but now, focusing on Chicago and hopefully getting a win there too.
Caitlin Clark's transition from college basketball to the WNBA was anything but smooth. From her debut game against the Connecticut Sun on May 14th, 2024, Clark faced intense physicality that often went uncalled by referees. In that game, DeJounte Carrington's aggressive defense smothering Clark, forcing turnovers, and delivering physical contact set the tone for what would become a recurring theme. Clark scored 20 points but shot inefficiently, going 4 of 11 from 3 and 1 of 4 from closer range, partly due to the relentless pressure that officials seemed to overlook.
They said women's sports were just waiting for its moment, but we are the moment.
Step back is good.
And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, the 2024 playoffs brought the issue into sharp focus. In Game 1 of the Indiana Fever's first-round series against the Sun, Carrington appeared to accidentally poke Clark in the eye while defending a pass attempt. The result? A black eye for Clark, a no call from the referees, and a firestorm of controversy. Fans and analysts, including Jason Whitlock, called for Carrington's suspension, pointing to a pattern of overly physical play against Clark. In Game 2, Clark suffered 2 more uncalled fouls, fueling speculation that the WNBA's officiating was not just inconsistent but deliberately biased. One ex-user wrote, "The refs didn't miss it. The WNBA hates Clark. There are players in the WNBA who are jealous and catty towards Clark. They are letting them get away with fouls, so she gets frustrated and quits. But here's what they're not telling you. This isn't just about missed calls. The pattern of non-calls and leniency toward players like Carrington, Chennedy Carter, and Angel Reese, who have all been involved in high-profile incidents with Clark, suggests a deeper issue.
Blocked it off of Jones.
Gets it over Austin and the foul.
Greatness isn't the goal, it's the standard.
Clark herself noted early in the season, "I think everybody is physical with me. They get away with things that probably other people don't get away with." This sentiment was echoed by fans and media, with one ex-post claiming, "The WNBA cares more about its woke ideology than it does about money and pay that the players receive. The whole league, including the referees, are clearly biased against Caitlin Clark." Dejounte Carrington, now with the Dallas Wings after her stint with the Connecticut Sun, has been at the center of multiple controversies involving Clark. In the 2024 regular season, Carrington mocked Clark after drawing a foul, later taking to X to criticize Clark's silence in the face of fans using her name to justify racism and bigotry. This personal animosity seemed to spill onto the court, culminating in the playoff eye poke incident. Slow-motion replays raised doubts about whether the contact was truly accidental, though Carrington maintained it was unintentional.
One of the best on-ball guard defenders in the league. Pretty good candidate for most improved this year.
On the all-defensive team as well, I would say. Carrington has quick hands.
And that's just the beginning. In 2025, Carrington's physical play continued to draw scrutiny. During a game against the Seattle Storm, she was assessed a flagrant 1 foul for a dangerous hit on Skylar Diggins' head. Another incident saw her scrape an opponent's face with her fingernails, prompting Whitlock to warn, "Dejounte Carrington is going to seriously injure a player in the WNBA." Carrington defended herself on X, tweeting, "Y'all fans swear I'm such a dirty player. I'm so over this narrative, BC. If you really know b-ball, you know I just play hard AF, never give up on a play."
In pain after she caught that fingertip in the eye or right around it from Carrington with no whistle.
Yet, the pattern of aggressive play, often unpunished or lightly penalized, has led fans to question why referees seem to give her a pass. This is where things take a shocking turn. Arrington's confrontation with referee Roy Golbien after a May 2025 game against the Chicago Sky highlighted her frustration with officiating, but also revealed a double standard. When Carrington challenged Golbien, he called for security, an action she labeled a microaggression on X. Meanwhile, Clark's interactions with referees, like her technical foul for punching a stanchion in August 2024, were met with harsh criticism from officials who claimed she was disrespecting the game of basketball. Why does Carrington's outspokenness result in leniency, while Clark's frustration draws penalties? The answer may lie in the league's ideological priorities.
But I get so frustrated as to why the media and the WNBA just mismanaged the situation the way that they did. Because I do actually think if just think in an alternate world, if last season all these new fans that came in, just think if they were welcomed into the league, if there wasn't people online, if there wasn't media personalities saying that Caitlin Clark fans are ruining the league, this was so much better without them. Like, think if that stuff wasn't happening. Think if the WNBA did a better job and put more resources into getting better referees and tightening up on the rules. Think if the WNBA put more resources into marketing players properly and not trying to put one player down in order to lift up other players. Like, if all of those things, if they were running like a business should be ran, just think of how much differently so many of these new fans who suck, how they would have felt about the WNBA.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The WNBA has long prided itself on aligning with progressive social movements, from racial justice to gender equality. While this stance props up its cultural relevance, it has also created a perception among some fans and analysts that the league's officiating reflects a bias against players like Clark, who is seen as a mainstream, marketable star bringing new and often less progressive fans to the league.
Is contagious. Our greatness isn't secret, it's global. You don't arrive when people know your name. You arrive when they'll never forget it.
Hosts on social media have accused the WNBA of allowing physical play against Clark to get back at fans perceived as white straight or straight, to uphold a narrative that prioritizes certain players over others. But what happens next is truly insane. Unlike the NBA during Michael Jordan's era or the Larry Bird-Magic Johnson rivalry, where physicality was tightly regulated to protect star players, the WNBA seems to operate under a different set of rules. In the 1980s and 1990s, the NBA recognized the value of its its marquee players. Jordan, Bird, and Johnson were not just athletes but global brands whose safety and marketability were paramount. Referees were instructed to curb excessive physicality, as seen in the NBA's crackdown on hand-checking in the early 2000s, which former referee Steve Javi noted required a serious emphasis to change player behavior. In contrast, the WNBA's officiating appears to tolerate physicality against Clark, perhaps to avoid alienating veteran players or to maintain a tough league image. This is where things go completely off the rails. The league's failure to protect Clark has led to accusations of double standards, with fans arguing that referees are more lenient toward players like Carrington, who align with the league's vocal social justice stance. For example, when Alyssa Thomas called out racist comments from Fever fans in 2024, the WNBA issued a swift statement condemning such behavior. Yet, when Clark faced physical fouls or online vitriol, the league's response was notably muted, fueling speculation that referees are instructed to let certain players play through contact to uphold a narrative of resilience or toughness.
Not make fans watch what they don't want to watch, but all we heard last year is if the fans were only watching the Indiana Fever, only watching games Caitlin Clark was playing in, then they weren't real fans and they didn't like basketball. And you just had so much media and WNBA personalities and even players just shunning the new fans. And the more and more that you hear of that, the more and more you're like, well, why would I want to watch you? Like, I'm gonna only watch what I want to watch, and I'm kind of turned off to the fact of watching anything else because you guys are telling me what a bad person I am because I don't want to tune into this certain team or this certain player, or heaven forbid, I have a favorite player.
And you'll never guess how it ends. In the NBA's golden era, stars like Jordan, Bird, and Johnson were protected not just for their safety but for the league's financial health. The NBA understood that these players drove ticket sales, TV ratings, and global interest. When Jordan faced the bad boy Pistons, referees were quick to call flagrant fouls to deter deliberate physicality, ensuring the league's biggest star could shine. Similarly, Bird and Johnson's rivalry was carefully officiated to maximize entertainment value, with the NBA introducing measures like last 2-minute reports to enhance transparency.
Jordan just, and Jordan goes down hard, and he looks hurt.
But here's what makes this even crazier. The WNBA, despite Clark's proven ability to boost viewership, her playoff debut drew 1.8 million viewers, outpacing most WNBA Finals games from 2023, seems indifferent to protecting its biggest draw. The league's officiating has been criticized for inconsistency, with coaches like Cheryl Reeve noting in 2023 that it was the worst in 15 years. Yet, the WNBA has not launched an investigation into Clark's treatment, despite social media claims to the contrary. This inaction stands in stark contrast to the NBA's proactive approach to referee accountability, suggesting that the WNBA's priorities lie elsewhere, perhaps in maintaining a certain ideological image rather than maximizing commercial success.
Around followership, around these generational players coming into our league, so it is taking that momentum, capitalizing on marketing around it.
And this is where things go from bad to worse. Clark's presence has been a boon for the WNBA, with 34 of her games in 2024 drawing over 1 million viewers, a feat not seen since 2008. Her absence due to injury or frustration could devastate the league's newfound momentum. Fans have already speculated that the WNBA's failure to protect Clark could push her to retire early or seek opportunities elsewhere. And you'll want to pay close attention to this part because the implications are massive. Here's where everything changes. Ice Cube, founder of the Big Three League, reportedly offered Clark a $5 million deal to play in his 3-on-3 league, far exceeding her WNBA rookie contract and even Nike's valuation of her endorsement potential. While Clark declined, the offer highlighted her marketability and the potential for alternative leagues to cash in on her star power. If the WNBA continues to allow questionable officiating, Clark could consider playing overseas, or leagues like Australia's WNBL or Europe's EuroLeague offer lucrative contracts too, with less physicality. Players like Brittany Griner and Diana Taurasi have thrived abroad, and Clark's global appeal could make her a superstar in markets like Asia or Europe.
Does the offer still stand to Caitlin Clark?
Nah, we've moved on. We see that she is focused on the WNBA, and we really didn't get great engagement from the offer from their team. I think the agents was hating on it a little bit. So yeah, we worried about the players that we have. We think we're gonna have our best season because the matchups are, teams are so evenly matched and they know the game now. You know, they know how to win in the big three.
But here's the most important part. If Clark leaves, the WNBA risks losing its biggest audience driver. The league's viewership surged in 2024, largely due to Clark's games, but without her, it could revert to pre-2024 levels, where no game averaged over 1 million viewers. Ice Cube's Big Three, with its relaxed rules and focus on entertainment, could provide a platform for Clark to showcase her skills without the physical punishment she faces in the WNBA. Alternatively, an overseas move could see her dominate in a less hostile environment, potentially building a global brand that overshadows the WNBA entirely.
The WNBA has essentially been ignored. There's been no controversy. There hasn't been as much media coverage. I Googled the WNBA this morning. A lot of the stories, a lot of the articles that came up, they're days old. The only one that really caught my attention was an article from Awful Announcing asking why the WNBA was scheduling games in something called the Commissioner's Cup during the NBA Finals.
And by the end of this, you'll understand why this is so important. The WNBA stands at a pivotal moment. Caitlin Clark represents a once-in-a-generation opportunity to elevate the league's profile, but the refereeing controversies surrounding her, exemplified by incidents with DeJounte Carrington and others, threaten to squander that potential. Unlike the NBA's handling of Jordan, Bird, and Johnson, the WNBA's officiating seems to prioritize ideology over player safety and commercial success. If the league doesn't address these double standards, Clark could take her talents elsewhere, leaving the WNBA to grapple with the consequences of its inaction. Stick around, because this next part is huge. The future of women's basketball may hinge on whether the WNBA can protect its brightest star or lose her to a rival league or overseas market. The choice is theirs, but the clock is ticking.
Bebish hounding Clark. Clark, step back three, knocks it down!
If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates. Stay tuned.